Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to Couch Conversations with the Doctors, where health is wealth. We are so happy that you guys are here with us on this evening. Remember to sign in, and share. Share. We want to say hello to all of our social media families who are out here. And we are here, Couch Conversations with the Doctors. So come on in, share. And as always, we're going to go around the table saying hi to all of our guests all of our co-hosts that are here with us on this evening. I know so many of you missed Dr. P on last week, and he is here on this evening. So Dr. P, who is he's that chef extraordinaire with the dollars. So Dr. P, go ahead on and introduce yourself to everyone that's here.
Hey guys, I'm sorry I missed you last week, but I'm back and ready to have a meaningful conversation. Hopefully, we can try to make the community better understand what things are good for their health and what things aren't so good for their health. And so, happy to be back.
Wonderful, simply outstanding. To my coworker, Dr. Douglas Graham, who's here. Dr. Graham, say hello to everyone who's here.
Hey, thanks, Nikki. I'm a retired physician. I've been working in the congressman's office for the last 2 years. It's really a pleasure and an honor to be here tonight with my colleagues. And I'm going to try and answer the questions if I can.
Outstanding. To the urologist extraordinaire, to the stars, the one who says that he never wants any type of accolades, but any man who has an issue, this is the guy who can fix you. That's our very own Dr. Terry Mason.
That's a little generous, Nikki, in that introduction. Good I am, God I'm not. So I'm glad to be here as a part of this conversation tonight, and I too hope to be able to answer your questions and maybe even stimulate something you didn't think about.
All right. To the man who says I threaten him every week to be here, but he's always on time, that's our very own Dr. James Miller.
I'd like to say good evening to everybody. We're happy to be here today. Hopefully we can stimulate some people to go out and get their vaccine. I mean, all the media attention that's coming up and the infection rate rising. We need to make certain that everybody get into action and do what we can to protect one another and protect ourselves. So good to be here this evening, and hopefully we can say something that will be useful for you.
Simply outstanding. To the Wolfgang Puck of healthcare, the weight loss guru, that doctor who's a family medicine doctor, but he can get those pounds off you just as well through all natural things. And that's our very own Dr. Tony Hampton. Dr. Hampton.
Thank you, Nikki. I'm 100% happy to be here today. I agree with you, Nikki. There's always a reason why we get sick. And I spend a lot of time every day with my patients trying to convince them if they could simply connect the dots between the things that they consume, the things they've been exposed to, the stress they're exposed to, the lack of sleep they're exposed to. And if they can just mitigate those and do better in those areas, then all of a sudden the healing begins. And I'm so happy to see people heal. So happy to be here tonight, loving this time of the year. And I think we have so much to be thankful for as we kind of wrap up this year. So thank you, Nikki.
Wonderful. And the congressman was having some technical difficulties only because we are off site today. We did a vaccine and booster event along with the Soul Santa Village, and we're at Excess Tennis, and he was trying to hurry up and get back to the office to make sure he could get on. I want to say hey to Linda Johnson, who's here with us. She says hello to everyone. Want to also say hi to Miss King, who is here. She said good evening to everyone that is also here. Alderman Pat Dowell is here just as well. Want to say hey to all of those great people. We are still right here at Excess Tennis. We are wrapping up, but if you still need to get your booster, or if you want to start your series of vaccines, we are definitely here to help you out. I got some interesting people behind me, just so you know. Are you guys ready for some of the people I have behind me? Is the Grinch still here? Come on over, Grinch. I have some interesting people here with me tonight. So we have the Grinch stuff, and we also have Mrs. Claus in the room. Mrs. Claus is here in the room with us. Mrs. Claus is here. The congressman was out here with all these great people, and him and Walt Whitman were doing what they do best, and that is share love and joy. Because tears the season, and by some chance there's somebody over here poking and hitting on me on the side, and I want him to stop hitting on me, but that's our very own Walt Whitman of the Soul Children. Walt Whitman is here. And of course, it wouldn't be what it would be with Excess Tennis if we didn't have our own Renelle Perry, who runs Excess Tennis. Her and Kamal are simply the best, and they are here, and they're going to talk about wellness. Now, I know we're supposed to be talking about forks over knives this week, and we have Dr. McGee, who's going to be coming in shortly. We're supposed to be talking about forks over knives, so I hope everybody is ready. We see that the congressman is in. We got all his technical difficulties together, and as he always teaches us that health is wealth, go right ahead, Congressman, with your introduction so we can begin our conversation. Congressman, I think you're muted on that side. Okay, so we can't hear the congressman yet, but while we, and that's muted. Now let me unmute him. Okay. So we're having just a few more technical difficulties with the congressman. We're going to get those speakers up and working for him. But while we're waiting for him to get his speakers up and working, we're going to ask if we can have just, we have a special guest here who just wants to talk about holistic health really quickly. And she works along with Dr. McGee at Premier Health. So she's going to come on and tell us just, that's Mrs. Claus. Come on in, Mrs. Claus.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. So I have my company is Peace and Love Healing Bath Salt LLC. I have all natural organic products that for the mind, body, and soul, using a holistic approach to complete wellness. So my products are for they're stress relief, inflammation, assisting with uninterrupted sleep, detoxifying, relaxing, moisturize, and so much more. I also have a turmeric collection, which is the foot soak, the antifungal, anti-inflammatory, reducing pain. Also incision endless. I'm actually partnered with Dr. French Wellness, located at 1301 East 37th Street in Big. And so yeah, so people do walk-ins. I help with the patients. I'm in the lobby usually, set up with my products. And Quench Wellness is also a local retailer of my products. So one more thing about it, sorry. So
Yeah.
with that, through my company, I also help with cancer awareness, domestic violence, and Alzheimer's awareness.
Well, thank you. I really want to just comment and just emphasize how important it is to ensure that you just don't focus on diet. If you just focus on diet and you don't address previous traumas people have experienced, if you don't address people's emotions, you're really not going to be able to engage them, because they're going to be trying to recover from those things and heal for those things. And we as clinicians have to address that as well. And then we have partners in the community who have the ability to support your journey, rather it's through their products, rather it's through their therapists or their coaching. We all need that. And in order for us to be successful, we have to be coached. Sometimes we get coaching from our spouses. Sometimes our kids give us a little coaching. Sometimes we get it from the people that we are being supervised by, or sometimes even I get coached. Today I got coached by my medical assistant. She was trying to coach me and help me to stay on task. And we were working as a team, buddy system, back and forth, and we knocked it out. Today is one of those very good days, and I couldn't have done it by myself. So I think anybody who's watching, to do some self-care, look at your life and say, what are the things that are keeping me from achieving my goals? And it's kind of funny, because one of the books I read recently called The Big Leap. It talked about how we literally sabotage our happiness. Like it's almost like we have this level, right? And I'm here, I'm comfortable, but if I get too happy, I'm looking for something to be unhappy about. That's almost like a disease, right? So we have to learn how to recognize it's okay to be happy, it's okay to be okay, and no matter how you grew up and no matter what struggles you've had, being happy don't mean something bad's about to happen. So I think that we have to be constantly coached to help us through those moments where we struggle. And I think the young lady, the things that she offers is an opportunity for us to say, hey, here's something that's going to be beyond just what we talk about today, diet. Here's something that'll help you maybe have the ability to change your diet because you've dealt with those negative emotional, those self-limiting beliefs that you've had in the past. So I think that's really important for anybody listening. This is not no one size fits all. It's about looking at all the elements of your life and trying to figure out which element you need to work on so you can achieve your ideal state.
Okay, so we had a few technical difficulties, and Dr. P, I got somebody here who's going to say hi to you. She can't wait. Is that?
Hey, hey, Miss Crystal.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, but it's a little broken. I think the internet's a little sluggish right now.
Okay, so you can hear, so the congressman.
Eeny, meeny,
Yeah, we
miny,
can hear the
mo.
congressman for sure. I think
Yeah.
Nikki's connection. So maybe you want to go ahead and
Eeny,
start.
meeny, miny, mo. Catch a monkey by its toe. If he hollers, let him go. O-U-T spelled out goes he. Now, how about that?
Sounds good to me.
All right. Well, that sounds all right. Sing a song of sixpence, pockets full of rye. 4 and 20 blackbirds were baked in a pie. And when the pie was over, they all began to sing. Was that not a dainty dish to set before the king? The king's in the counting house counting out money. Queen's in the queen house eating bread and honey. Oh, Madam Rose was outdoors hanging out her clothes, and along came a blackbird and pecked off her nose. Well, I've been interacting with young people, with children, much of the day and much of the weekend, and it has been marvelous. It has been incredible, unbelievable. And we went to the penitentiary Saturday and took a group of young people to see their fathers, and they were just running around, dada, and all that kind of stuff. People got emotional. There were men crying and all that kind of stuff. I said, "Let me get out of here. I don't want to be." Let me tell you, but it was great, and the director of the Illinois Department of Corrections was there with us. And at the end of the day, he said, I really wish I had this going on in every one of my prisons in the state of Illinois. And they actually, when we first started doing it, they were reluctant and they were kind of skeptical. The staff from the department, from the prison, had a present for every young person that we took, that they prepared and had for them. Some of the men had made their own presents for their children, and they had a soul food restaurant in the town that catered lunch, and we all sat down to a family dinner and just had a wonderful time. So I'm geeked up, way up. And before that, Dr. Willie Wilson let me run around with him all week. And we were just out handing out $100 bills and $200 bills. He gave away $200,000 and it was all cash money, except, well, he did give the Coalition for the Homeless a check for $25,000, and he gave Dorothy Gators, the coach over at Marshall High School, for the tournament she's going to have on Dr. King's Day. He gave her $10,000, but the rest of it, you know, was $100 and $200 bills. And we must have visited, I think I did about 10 places. And I think he may have done about 20, because he also did a round of places on Sunday that I didn't go. And, you know, to see this kind of action and this kind of humanitarianism does something to you, even if you didn't. I ran out and bought myself 1,000 stamps and started sending out Christmas cards and say people I hadn't intended to send no Christmas cards to. And then my wife say, "We ain't got enough cards. You need to order some more." I said, "I'm tired." But it just kind of happens, and you get caught up in the spirit. And that's what this is, the spirit of Christmas, giving, sharing, and caring. What more can you do? I mean, hey, what else? Away in a manger, no crib for a bed. The little Lord Jesus laid down his head. I remember all that stuff, you know. I don't know how. I remember every bit of it. It comes to you and you have it for a minute and then it's gone, you know. Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. Lord, keep me safe tonight, to morning light appear. Let me tell you, it'll make you go to sleep and drink some hot chocolate. You won't even worry about what you ain't got. We got through with that. We didn't care whether Santa Claus came or not. My daddy would say, "It ain't no Santa, it ain't no Claus. It ain't nothing but your ma and pa." And then he'd make us go to sleep. Otherwise, he doesn't go put ashes in our eyes and stuff. Then they put out the stuff, you know. We'd stay awake. Plus, we'd smell it anyway, because they'd have apples and oranges and stuff like that. And the house would be smelling of fruit. And so you knew something was going on. Well, hey, hopefully our children can feel and experience that kind of magic. And you know that it's half whatever and half whatever else it is, but it also invokes within you a spirit that you don't get any other way. So hey, thanks. And today I was carried away when I got to the tennis court. I mean, I just didn't know this was laid out that way. I mean, Walt Whitman and the Soul Children. Walt's been doing that for a long time, and it's cultivated so many children until it's not funny. Saw Reverend James Meeks. Reverend Meeks and I went to Korea together about 15 years ago and hung out. And I always say that's where he got the idea from, because we went to the largest church in the world. And I said that's where he got the inspiration to build this great big church and center that he has built out on 114th Street, the Oyo Full Gospel Church. On a Sunday, they then were ministering to about 200,000 people because of the way that they have it organized and the way it's set up. And they had church in their main place in 36 different languages. And whatever language you would buy into, that's the language you would hear. So please, let's hear about medicine, science, because this stuff, this magic, sometimes is just as good as medicine.
Well, Congressman, I would argue that what you just described was medicine, because so much of what we do involves sort of a clinical scientific aspect. But then when you realize what real healing is, it really is much more holistic, much broader. And so it ties into what Dr. Hampton said earlier, that mental healing, being able to recognize some traumas that's happened to you, but not necessarily dwell on that. And the event that you had that brought those men so much joy, and then brought the kids and the families, So as we know, when we treat our patients, we're never treating just the person. We're treating the entire family. And to get real healing, we do need the buy-in of the entire family. So that was a remarkable thing you did, and I just want to commend you for that and for this venue and everything.
And I had my shot, not the shot, I had my test today. I ran by the Miles Health Center and say, I understand that I may have come in contact. Not that I know I've come in contact, but just in case. I went by, they took my blood pressure and stuff and treated it like I was really, having a total visit. They checked me out and, did my blood pressure and everything. Then they stuck the tube up my nose and they say I'll know tomorrow whether or not I've been touched. And so every aspect of it is just a part and as good as the other aspect. So I want to thank the docs over at Mile Square because they looked after me very quick. I never missed a beat. And all the other folks who kind of made sure I didn't have to stay there too long.
Nikki, you might want to look at the congressman's microphone because I don't know if everybody else is hearing the feedback, but it's like there's a feedback and an echo.
I'm gonna make it stop. Stop.
I think you just did.
The Bible say, "Ask and it shall be given; seek and you shall find." So I'm gonna ask it not to do it. We used to be able to just hit on it. That would take care of whatever was going on. Well, let me ask a question. I see Nikki may be having a little shot of trouble herself.
Mm-hmm.
During the holiday period, I also spent Saturday night after we got back. We had a reception for our recovering group. That is, we have a group of people who are recovering from whatever it is that they are recovering from. And I am told that sometimes during holidays that people who make use of external stimulants sometimes experience some special needs that the holiday period brings on for them, especially if they're not in contact or in close contact with family and friends during this period, and it may cause them to overindulge. Is there anything to that? Or?
Yeah, no doubt. Well, just from a physiological perspective, our brain has, those neurons that have memories. And if my addictive neurons are triggered, the addictive behavior will come back. Unfortunately, just like fat cells, you can do liposuction and remove fat cells, but pretty much the fat cells that you have, you're pretty much just filling them up and shrinking them. And the goal is to keep them as shrunken as possible. Those neurons that you have, you pretty much are going to end up with the neurons you're going to have. Now, there is a way called plasticity to make new ones, but my point is that if you have neurons whose job it was to recognize the things that will make you do those addictive things, they never go away. The key is to put them dormant. So if I'm triggered by Dunkin' Donuts, I need to maybe take a different route. If I'm triggered by a certain neighborhood to have certain behaviors, I may not want to hang out on that corner I used to do those behaviors. If on the holidays, I have a dietary pattern that is helping me to heal, but my favorite relative is insisting, and this just happened. I'm being very frank. My wife was in a play just this weekend. It was called Mika Scrooge, and she was her first play. I'll probably share that on social media tomorrow, but she was able to be in this play. It was great. And then my mom sat next to me, and she said to me, she said, I'm going to be making some spaghetti. As they say in the hood, some getty. And she said, I know you normally don't eat that, but you can eat just a little, can't you? Now, that's my mama. I love my mama, so I don't want to disappoint my mama. But the point of it is, if I have an addiction, a processed food addiction, and I've been doing a great job, and then all of a sudden the holidays show up, and these people who you love, including your mama, is encouraging you to eat the sweet potato pie and the dressing and the macaroni and the spaghetti, and then that may trigger you because of those neurons, and all of a sudden the neurons light up and say, hey, that's not going to harm you. That's your friend. You want to eat that Getty because it's gonna make your mama happy, and you're gonna enjoy it. And so the struggle is that we have to find strategies to mitigate that risk. And sometimes those strategies is to say, Mom, you remember when I used to eat that way? I used to always have stomach problems. Sometimes the strategy is that I come to these events and I may eat some things before I go to the events. If there's nothing there, what you're gonna, stay on base with. There are some people who can cheat and have no problem with this because they don't have a processed food addiction. But for many of us, it's not just a physical addiction, it's those neurons. We have an emotional addiction. And if we're emotionally gonna do some things that we shouldn't do, we have to be thoughtful and plan. We know Christmas is coming. There's no surprise it's going to be on Saturday. So we can plan and say, well, how do I mitigate this risk? Sometimes you just call and say, baby, what y'all cooking? And then you find out what they're cooking. If it doesn't align with the things that you believe in or that you're on a different path, then what you may do is let me bring something that will then allow me to eat that plus the things that they have that I can eat. So, or you go there with a partially full belly, so you're not obligated to eat the things that are in front of you because you're not sitting there hungry. To me, the holidays are about food to a certain extent, but it's really about gathering with your family, spending time with the people you love, and you have to turn it to that and focus on those things. And when people turn the conversation towards, baby, don't you want to eat some of the sweet potato pie? That's something you don't plan to do. You have to redirect that conversation so that people will get off that subject and talk about something else. It's an art to it. But my point is, Congressman, it's not easy. And who do you know that's not addicted to sugar? Who do you know that doesn't like sweet potato pie? So these are things that we all struggle with. And if we're not healthy, we have to be more cautious. And so that's what I would say to that.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think even if you relate everything that Dr. Hampton said to physical, chemical drug addiction, that there are people who are triggered by family events and holidays where it wasn't so pleasant. And to get through those holidays, people had to use hardcore drugs and alcohol in order to manage the disappointment and the harsh feelings that happened, right? The drunk uncle and the drug addicted dad or whatever, or mom. And so sometimes we have to use those substances, or people felt the need to use those substances to get those neurotransmitters, those neural hormones up in order to manage what happened during those times. And so, like Dr. Hampton said, you have to make a calculated risk. And sometimes it may mean I can't go over there. Like, I mean, I literally can't go over there because it's going to bring back feelings that's going to make me desire the things that help me to manage that, i.e., the external sources of that's going to raise those levels of dopamine. That's our feel-good hormone, neurotransmitter. And so if you have to, you just may have to, now I know Tony can't avoid going over mama's house, but Uncle Junebug, I can't be over there if you're going to be, doing things that's going to trigger me to make me want to have to drink alcohol or use drugs in order to manage what happened with us. And so, but on the other hand, from a clinical perspective, I think it's important that people go to their meetings, from an addiction medicine perspective, especially during holiday times. That's when people lower their guards. Go to your meetings, stay on your medicine. If you have a heroin addiction, stay on your methadone or Suboxone. If you have alcoholism, stay on your naltrexone. So you want to keep your guards up and have a high, high barrier to avoiding events. From addiction medicine perspective, we say people, places, and things, right? So if you're in the place, you're around the people, and you're around the things, you're at risk. And so we want to make sure that you're looking at things from a realistic perspective. And while we can't relate spaghetti and drugs, but we can say the motivation sometimes, people want you to do what they do, right? And I don't want you talking about cauliflower right now. I want you to talk about spaghetti and black-eyed peas, and some nothing wrong with black-eyed peas, but
ain't nothing,
and ain't nothing wrong with nobody black-eyed peas now. but the point is that I would say for people who do have addiction issues, make sure you go to your meetings, make sure you stay on your medications, and then if need be, avoid the events, because that one day is not worth the potential spiraling that can happen. It can end up either landing you in the hospital, or even worse, a potential overdose.
Yeah, one of the other things, which is a lot more simplistic, is that I think we often use our time in a such way when we're dealing with things on a regular day. We have a schedule of things, of events, of time that we're going to do certain things, and the holiday breaks that up. Because the time schedule changes. We're thinking, especially the Christmas season, when the holiday is not just one day. It's gathered around a couple of weeks, and so people have a lot of time to sit and to think and to really just to deviate from their regular process. Even when people are working, they get off early to go shopping or to go do other things, and these are things that get them off of their routine. And it is the routine that they established that has helped them to be able to overcome some of their weakness and some of the things that have put them in a bad situation. And a lot of time people fall off the wagon simply because their routine is broken and they find themselves with extra time and they don't have anything to fill that time. And suddenly they find themselves falling back or being more susceptible to falling back into something that they used to do because it kills time. And so just simply making certain that even though it's the holiday, that you keep some kind of schedule, and that you feel the other time with, even though it may be not be work, it may be things that you're going to enjoy, but fill it with things that you can control, things that will help you to avoid from falling back into the things that caused you issues and problems.
One more quick thing. You triggered me, and I was about to sing "You Better Think About What You're Trying to Do to Me." Don't have me singing tonight. and I want to say that to say this. I'm thinking about what Brother Pete said about spiraling, and let me give you one more example of what I remember from the past. So when I would eat my mom makes the best dressing. And I think all of us feel that way because you eat what you are exposed to, right? Mm-hmm. And it is so good. And I know she wants me to consume that when she makes it. She'll probably not make it for Christmas, but certainly did for Thanksgiving. And my mom and my two boys consumed that delicious dressing. And in my brain as a physician, I don't see dressing. I see bread, flour, and processed food. That's how I think, because I'm in a different place right now. But all they see is, ooh, she makes some really good dressing. Now, when I ate that rich food, people say, well, why are you so committed and dedicated and consistent? And what they don't understand is when I eat that kind of rich food, sometime between 1 and 3 in the morning, I'm going to have a stomach issue. And I may spend anywhere from an hour or longer dealing with my stomach issue. And it's almost like you're asking God, please end this. And then every single holiday, I would still consume these foods and be sick. So if you don't, so that's my version of spiraling. So when you want to ask me, why am I so dedicated to not only help other people, but to not be sick? It's because I have a memory that reminds me. So when my neurons that are triggers that make me want to eat these things, I also have the ability, which is what I want you guys to do, is when you see those things that trigger you, don't forget about the negative impact those things have had on your family, whether it's drugs or alcohol. Do you remember when you got drunk, what kind of fool you was acting and who you harmed and the things you did that led to harm in your family? We don't want to forget about those aspects of our triggers and addiction. So for me, it's a diet issue. But please, I never had an obesity issue. I never had diabetes, but I couldn't, my stomach wasn't right. And I just got tired of having a stomach that wasn't right. So in 8 years since I've been eating this way that I eat, I may have had one day. And it used to be like every 3 months. So you can't want to go back to that. And you got to want your new version of yourself. And you got to say bye to the old version.
Tony, to pick up on the part about the old version of yourself, I changed what I did in terms of religion and everything else many years ago. And when I went into the Nation of Islam, I didn't celebrate Christmas anymore. And then I didn't eat pork anymore. So not only just for the Christmas days, but New Year's, there was always chitlins, and there was always all that other stuff that we had. And I knew that it would, I know I wasn't going to eat it, but at the same time, I did want to at least come by the house and say hello to folks. The other thing was that, and I'm doing it this year, is I'm really decided that as unpopular as this is going to sound to everyone probably sitting here, as well as what I do, is I have a feeling, I have a compulsion to really talk about what the holiday is and what happened. It wasn't, what all this stuff, all the material stuff is not what it's supposed to be. We've been conditioned to make it that, but that's not what it's supposed to be. And so what I do, Congressman, you'll probably appreciate this. I go back to Matthew, And I go in the book of Matthew and we talk about it. I said, well, okay, if you want to get money, this is what we're going to do. Y'all need to read this, because all my grandkids, with the exception of my great granddaughter, can read. And I'm going to say, here's the cash prizes you're going to win. But I have questions. You got to be able to tell me, who was Herod? Who was King Herod? And what did he do? And who was Mary? Who was Joseph? Who were all those people? And how did those things come to be? And what was it, and why was it that Joseph and Mary had to leave? And what did Herod do? I mean, it's all right. It's all laid out. You ain't got to guess on it. I see Rep Miller up there shaking his head. But if we don't take the time to tell the truth, how many generations of children are we going to raise in a lie? And yes, it's nice to get things, but you can get things anytime. You don't have to wait for those days. You can wait. Birthdays are good. Other days are good. But and this is my own opinion, but I just think it's important that we don't 100% continue in reinforcing this untruth and supporting the paganistic, and I don't mean to be diminutive of anyone's celebration, and I don't want anybody to take it that way. But there is another. We as adults have a responsibility, because for many people, they won't have that. This has been a tough year for a lot of people, and we need to just be grateful for the things that we should be grateful for. And that's our health, our strength, and the fact that we still have loving families.
Can we I don't ever remember having a bad Christmas when I was a kid. I remember my sister had a bad Christmas one time because my father had kind of promised us a bicycle, and he didn't have enough money, or he changed his mind, or whatever it was. But anyway, we did not get a bicycle. And it just broke my sister's heart. I mean, she was just angry for at least a month. And I just kind of took the position, well, we didn't get a bicycle. Plus, it was hard riding the bicycle in them dusty roads and stuff anyway. But she took it real bad. And so there are things that people internalize. And by doing so, like, I like the idea of asking a blessing before I eat. I'm saying it ain't no big. It ain't like I'm scared the food gonna be poisoned. I'm gonna get food poisoning if I don't. But to me, it just kind of adds another little thing to it in terms of being conscious enough to know that I'm fortunate to have whatever it is that I've got, because there are so many other people who don't. I mean, I often will ask the blessing and will say, there are millions of people in our world who have an appetite but no food. Then there are millions of others who have food but no appetite. And thank God I got both, or whatever, kind of humorous in a way. But nevertheless, it's true, because there are lots of people who have food, but they can't taste it. and they don't feel like eating it. And then there are others who don't have that. And so this business of some way of trying to create the humanity of our existence in a way that we seemingly have lost a great deal of. And if you're not taught it, then there's no way that you can really feel it because it's not part of your being. It's just simply not a part. And I don't know how we get back. People have been arguing lately, a lot of conversation about what is the problem with the violence we are experiencing and the violence that many of our children, taking people's cars, carjacking, or groups of people going into shopping centers and kind of taking stuff and leaving out and daring others to be in pursuit. And we don't like the idea of seeing it, but do we know how to stop it? I mean, what can we do other than trying to teach these values as individuals are coming into the world that would suggest that you never ever would do? Like, I see kids who talk a certain way to their parents, and it never ever would have occurred to me to talk that way to either one of my parents. Not because I was afraid of them, because I really was not afraid of my mama. We was kind of afraid of my daddy. But my mama would tighten you up and be laughing all at the same time. But she just do it. She say to get your attention and stuff. And so she said, I ain't mad with you, but I'm just figuring that you got a little unruly. But the respect, we were taught in Sunday school, honor thy mother and thy father, that your days will be long upon the earth. My mama would say, because if you don't, I'm going to kill you myself. And I know your days ain't going to be long. And so that would be kind of funny, but we knew she meant it. Is there anything wrong with that kind of teaching?
Well, I'll say something real quick. When you asked the question about, we've been having a lot of conversations about the violence and things of that nature, and I see Mike McGee has joined us. But one of the things that I, from my own personal experience, and from what I've learned collectively from being involved, having to sit there and watch parents and other people come into the county trauma unit and have to tell them that their child didn't make it, and things of that nature. But I can say this much. One of the things that's different today than then is my parents were parents. And a lot of these children, I don't believe, have been properly parented. That is, and when I say parented, I was parented beyond my biological parents. I was parented by everybody that lived on that block. I don't know if those communities exist the same way anymore. But, it does take a village to raise a child. And every adult on that block had the right to ask me if they needed me to do something for me. And I grew up in Inglewood at 69th and Low. But that's not the case anymore. And children are receiving instruction not just from their biological parents, even if they're there, but they're getting instruction from that they showed, like they showed on Channel 2, about these 14 and 15-year-old, 16-year-old kids doing carjacking. And one young man talked about he learned it from a Grand Theft Auto, watching that video, and he went and did the same thing. And the girl that said, well, you know, sometimes if I need a ride and I ain't got no way to get there, I look around and see and check the traffic patterns and look for the police, and then I jack a car. I'm just things that we just never would have thought of. That's all I'm saying. It's not something that would have entered into our mind because our structure was such that that wasn't something that we even had as an option to think about. And nowadays, because of even parents that are trying to parent, they're in competition with Facebook and Snapchat and all of these other things where children are getting and absorbing information that is not really, they're not really ready for and can process properly. So I'll stop right there because I said I'd be brief.
Well, I think you said a mouthful, and you raised some really, really significant issues here. And one of the, what you talked about is exposure when you're not mature enough to really manage or to understand how you deal with what you're being exposed to. And, so a lot of the things that we would not even imagine to do when we were children, we weren't exposed to that kind of thing. We weren't exposed to that behavior. We didn't see it. So we all will mimic what we see and what we learn. And if you don't see it and it's not being in your environment, then you really don't learn that kind of thing. So I think that when we see people behaving in manners that we think are way out of bounds, it means that it's somewhere at some time somebody has introduced them to this type of behavior, and they really are not really equipped to understand that this is not something that I should mimic in my house or in my normal activities. And so then when you throw in all the other complex things that are going on in our world, I mean, it's really, you just think of a young mind. I mean, when you, are 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, you only learn a certain amount in terms of what you do with things. And if given those things and you don't know what to do with them, most of the time you're not going to manage them in the proper way.
Yeah, gentlemen, I'd like to chime in real quick before we end. I do apologize. I'm always running a little bit late because of work or what have you. But yeah, I think everything that everybody says is right on the money. But you guys already know this has been a storm that's been brewing for years with our upbringing of our kids, single parent families, kids that have stuff and don't have stuff. But then also this rage has been there with our kids. It's been happening. And then COVID just unleashed all of that. Imagine the kids that were doing okay because of a grandparent who was right there because they parents may have either been in jail or killed or something tragic happened. And then now their parent just died or their grandmother just died from COVID. And so it's a lot of things going on out there because we got unchecked mental health. And then these kids that are exposed to violence don't have wraparound services to prevent and perpetuate the violence that continues to occur in that pattern. And it's not just, kids in the hood. It's kids all over now doing these challenges that they see on social media. Social media has been our biggest downfall. That's how those kids knew to congregate and go downtown Chicago. They get on whatever Snapchat or whatever it is they have going now. They can all meet where adults won't know. Police don't know. And so that's been like our worst tragedy. You have white kids, doing things that results in them dying from challenges they see on social media. So social media is not really our friend. It perpetuates stuff in adults. You got adults and families fighting over things that happen on social media. So, it's caused kids to commit suicide because they will release a picture of them nude, and now everybody gets it, and now that kid is regretting it for the rest of their life. And so it's a lot of things going on. But I know you guys probably touched upon the 805,000 people dead today from COVID. And imagine what these people, including myself, who lost my dad, the day before Halloween last year, not from COVID, but because he didn't want to go to the hospital because of COVID. And he had a perforated, diverticulitis, and when was in septic shock because he waited so long to go in. It's a lot of people that's suffering this year from that, from loss of jobs, from all the things associated with COVID. And what makes it so much worse is that we back in it again, man. I'm in the ER. A month and a half ago, we were like, man, we haven't seen any COVID patients. And now everything you hear is real. Right now, we're averaging, because we can't get people up to their rooms, they're all in the ER. We're averaging about maybe 10 to 12 to 13 people who are positive for COVID who are sick. But then we also treating them in the waiting room with remdesivir or monoclonal antibody. And even at my urgent care on Friday, we had 30 people, 15 of them were positive for COVID. And so this is scary, man. Kids haven't even came home from school yet. Cornell just had an outbreak of 900 kids who most of them were vaccinated who have COVID. And they're having a bunch of mild symptoms, but they're not the ones we worried about. This is when they go home to their parents and their grandparents or their sick little brother who may have asthma. And so this is scary. We definitely need to bring more attention to that. And just to give you how exponentially ridiculous this is, it took 111 days to go from 600,000 to 700,000 deaths. 111 days. The next 100,000 deaths only took 73 days. So imagine what the next 50 days are going to bring for us, because we're not getting a hold of this at all. We just had a healthcare fair on Sunday. We had the Church of God in Christ. We had Urban League. We had Cook County Physicians Association, Black Nurses Association. And we probably had about maybe 40 people show up to get free vaccines and free COVID tests. And I don't know what you can do. I'm ready to say, look, I'm not doing this again. Because you pay for the resources, you pay for the staff, and then they just don't show up. So if you guys have any suggestions, I know Nikki, you guys were just doing a vaccine drive. How did you guys get to be so successful in getting people out? Nikki, did you hear that?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm having so many technical difficulties. I really want the congressman to answer.
Okay.
I didn't want to start talking and then we break up. But really quickly, if you can share the fact that you do rapid testing there and the address of where people can get rapid testing done at. And if Dr. Hampton and Dr. Pete can share the same, that you can get rapid testing and a schedule of how you can get that, that would be great. But, I think one of the reasons, and this is just my thoughts, these are my thoughts only, but these thoughts have been proven to be true. One of the reasons why I believe that our office has been so successful with getting people vaccinated is truly because people trust Congressman Danny K. Davis. When the congressman showed that he got his vaccine and he did the first event, Dr. Hampton and Pete can tell you we had a couple thousand people standing in line to get vaccines because they trust him. When we do vaccines, even today, when we have numbers like 200 or 150 or 300 people come out, we call that a low number because most of the events that we have done, we've had a couple thousand people come out each time. So I think I know it's been because people trust the congressman. And then he trusts the fact, and I look at the dynamics of some of the ways that we've done it. We've done a consortium of doctors who look like the communities that we're in. And they've been very successful of coming out to do that. And then we did them in comfortable spaces. We didn't just tell people, come to us. We actually went to them. When we went to Rising Sun Church on the corner of Chicago Avenue and Central, we had almost 2,000 people who came from 800 North at Chicago Avenue all the way to 1,500 North at North Avenue, blocking the street, waiting in line. And I know that that's because they trust the congressman. And one thing he did, he walked that line. I know he walked the line because I was walking that line with him in the cold. He walked that line. He talked to everybody in that line. He shook hands with everybody in the line. If you were afraid when you were in the line, he stood there and told a joke with you. He put people at ease in a different way. And that's one of the reasons that we've been so successful. And the fact that Pete and I started these conversations with the Congressman's blessing. And it was nobody but me and Pete on here. And when people saw that we were serious about what we were talking about and that we were really trying to save lives, and when Pete showed his arm and Dr. Hampton showed his arm and Dr. Mason showed his arm, and when people came out and saw Dr. Terry Mason drawing up vaccines, or they saw at the door saying, "Come on in, have a seat. Where you want to go?" People just kept coming, and then they started asking us.
Dr. Mason didn't overdose anybody, did he?
I think Rising Sun was actually our best one. And I think it was because people knew Dr. Miller go to church there.
Dr. Miller, was that your church?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's his church. I mean,
that was a day. That was a real day.
That was a beautiful one. That was. I mean, I couldn't believe it when I saw the people lined up around all the way down to the next street. And that I said, "Oh, this is good stuff." But I think people have slacked off in terms of thinking that we're okay.
Yeah.
And we're not okay. I saw where some community was looked at, and it's only 40% of the people in that community have been vaccinated.
Right.
40%. That's, and it's hard, and there are people who don't want you to talk to them about it. I mean, they don't, and they don't want to be told. And this thing is emerging, but this is America the free, and you can do what you want to do, and you have a right, and that's what some people have been promoting, and other people are buying into it, and that's what they feel, and I mean, even in DC, we've got people who attempt to get on the elevator, and they don't have their mask on, and they don't have a mask on, and other people just get off. People, well, no, I'm not. And then there's a little bit of a little friction, and people feel some politicizing going on, and other people say, "Well, no, I'm just not riding on an elevator with anybody that don't have their mask on. And I don't care what they think, and I don't care what they feel, but I am not." Now, of course, we can't go on the floor. The rule is you can't go on the floor without your mask on. And of course, you also can't go on the floor without being checked to see whether or not you got a pistol. I mean, it's getting
that's good.
It's getting tough in the country. I mean, our country is so divided right now, and it really is. I'm saying there are a lot of people who think this is just some television commentators, some prognosticators saying this and that. Like, I feel so let down in a sense right now when Senator Manchin said, "You can forget about this Build Back Better with me. I ain't voting for that. You can count me out." Because there are so many good things in that legislation that would help so many people, and then would help the total economy. I'm saying I'm not an economist. I never really studied economics, but my theory of economics is that if you've got money circulating in a community, in an environment, that the circulation of that money is like the circulation of blood in the body. As long as the blood is circulating in your body and getting to all parts the way it should be, you're pretty healthy. You're okay. But if it's not, and you got blood clots, you hurt. Or you got too much on one side, not enough on the other side. Or it's not getting from your heart to your toe. Then something wrong with your toe. And so I think this stuff would just be good for the economy. Jobs for people. People can work. People can go and get their kids. Can you imagine what it would be like for every 3 and 4-year-old child in this country to have access to early childhood education? Every child having access to early childhood education. There are many kids who never get any of that. They don't, and so they start off behind from Jump Street, and they hungry, and they didn't get the nutritional stuff they needed to get. And this guy is blocking all of that for all these people based upon what? I don't know. And so it disturbs you. But of course, our process is our process. And that's the only way it happens. And right now he's holding the cards. He's got the country in his hand and saying, I ain't gonna let go. And there doesn't seem to be anything. I understand he's not even returning the president's calls. He said, no, I don't want to talk to the president. Tell him I'll call him back. There's nothing else he can say to me that's going to get me to change my position or change my mind. But that's America. That's our country. My country, 'tis of thee. And even as bad as it is, it's better than most other countries. Because there are other countries that don't even have the vaccine, where 10, 15% of the population, and they can't get it. And so I can imagine what they feel like and how they feel. And we've got laws, of course, that protect. We've got intellectual property rights. And so if I got some Moderna stuff and you ain't got no money to give in exchange for it, I can have it, but that don't mean you're going to get it. So.
Yeah, Congressman, everything you said is 100% correct. For people who are not looking to go to a outreach event for vaccines, you can always come up to our facility. We're doing vaccines. We have all of them. Really expressing to do the Pfizer and Moderna. I guess they're saying J&J you want to try to stay away from now if you can, because it's not as efficacious for preventing Omicron and all the other variants. We're also doing, we do PCR as well as rapid, 10 to 15 minute rapid tests. And we're going to be doing in the next week, we're going to be doing saliva PCR tests, which is 99.9% effective and sensitive. So we're doing that right at we have our own molecular lab. So we're doing them right now in our own lab at Premier at 1301 East 47th Street.
Is there a charge?
No. Well, they want you, if you have insurance, they want you to give your insurance information. But if you don't have any insurance, You don't have to pay anything. And even with your insurance, there's no out-of-pocket costs because it's all covered by your insurance anyway.
Hey guys, I know the screen says Nikki Harvey, but this is actually Renelle Perry, Program Director at Excess Tennis. And I just really want to comment on a question that was asked before about why our events have been so successful here. And one, I want to say shout out to my favorite Congressman, Danny K. Davis, because every time that we have asked and partnered in conjunction with him, we've had a great turnout. And Miss Nikki Harvey is being very bashful. We know that's not Nikki, but literally, we had people today that got the vaccine because she talked to them. They had questions and she was able to answer them. And so I think this gentleman said, I got my booster shot today because of Miss Harvey. I literally saw her hold a gentleman's hand that was nervous about getting it. They was about to walk out. And she said, it's okay, I got mine. Look, I'm going to sit right here and I'm going to hold your hand while you get this done. And so it's that type of empathy and concern that's made it so successful. And I know, we had probably about 600 or 700 people today. Half of those people either got a booster or got their first shot today. So again, thank you so much to my favorite congressman and to Ms. Harvey here, who whenever we call, they have answered our needs.
Well, thank you to one of the very first families that ever supported me when I decided to run for public office. Renelle was a little girl. And her first cousin is my goddaughter. And they lived on Monroe Street on the west side of Chicago, on the same block that Jesse Madison lived on. But people grow up as she did, became a corporation executive, and is now retired and doing all kind of good stuff. Hard work. So thank you, and thank Excess Tennis. I mean, all of it is just so unbelievable. I mean, and so incredible until it makes you feel good that you live in Chicago.
So as we always say, health is wealth, and that's what the congressman teaches us. And I know you guys hate to hear me say this, but it's our time. So we're going to quickly go around the table as we always do and ask everyone to do their until next Monday. So I'm going to start with my coworker, my very own Dr. Douglas Graham. Your until next Monday.
Well, thank you, Nikki. For me, this is kind of the season of hope. And I'd like to carry into this week and next week the hope for next year. And that we'll begin to address some of these issues and come to a more peaceful resolution than the ones we have right now.
All right, Dr. James Miller, your until next Monday.
My until next Monday is simply this. This is the season of giving, and God gave us the greatest gift. Now, there are a lot of gifts that we can receive and gifts that we can give. And I think that the vaccination is a gift. We don't, as Dr. McGee said, you don't have to pay spend any money out of your pocket. You just have to make yourself available. And so we wished and we encourage people to go and get these gifts. And in turn, you're receiving a gift, but you're also giving, because now you're less likely to cause as much of the spread of this virus that you otherwise would if you was not vaccinated and got sick, and you're going to burden down the healthcare system. So during this season of giving, let us give. And one other thing that I think Dr. Mason spoke about is in our past that we were a community, we were a united front, and he said that it takes a village to raise a child. And this is the same thing. It takes a village of us to be able to combat and to overcome these problems that we are in. So we just have to stick with it, and we have to continue to be encouraging to one another. And that's the only way that we're going to be able to get beyond these times and difficulties. I know that it can be disappointing that, we think that we're out of the woods and then we look around and there's something else seeming to be grabbing us. But let us not be get too disappointed, and let us continue to unify ourselves in our efforts and our encouragement of each other. Even though somebody may not be behaving the way that we want them, we just got to encourage them to do what's right.
All right. To our very own Dr. Terry Mason, you're until next Monday.
I just want to first of all continue to pray for Congressman Davis for the work that he does and that he leads, and that he is a man that leads by example. And that's one that we should all look at. And I applaud him for it, and I thank God for allowing him to do it. And also, Nikki, to work with him to do the things that you do, and then to have Mike McGee on, because that's a hardworking brother, and it's not easy doing what he does. And I appreciate you, Mike, for what you do. But I also want to let people, again, I just want to say quickly, taking a vaccine is not your individual decision. I just want to underscore that. It is not an individual decision. In a public health emergency like what we have right now, the only defense we have is creating a hostile environment for the virus. And the only way we create a hostile environment so the virus can't multiply itself is to get vaccinated. So when you make a decision not to get vaccinated, you're not just making an individual decision. You're making a decision to run the risk of harming many people you know and some you do not. And so we have to use our sense and our sense of community to understand that either we're going to get through all this together or we're not going to get through it at all. Because the virus is going to continue to do what it does. It's going to continue to mutate. It's going to continue to, and as long as it doesn't have a hostile environment, but an environment that helps that virus grow, it's going to continue to do that.
All right, Dr. Mason. To our very own Mrs. Claus, who is here with us tonight at our vaccine event, her until next Monday thoughts.
Hello. My until next Monday thoughts are to be kind to yourself. Care is very important. Peace, love, and healing to you. You take care of everyone else. Just don't forget yourself.
All right. Fantastic. I was trying to give Pete a chance to get back in here really quickly so he could give his until next Monday, but to my very good friend, Dr. Michael McGee, your until next Monday.
I'll just quote Martin Luther King. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? We all should be out here doing something for somebody during this time. And for those of you who haven't gotten your shot, taking your shot is for others. It's for your grandparents. It's for the sick people in your family who are at high risk. So I encourage you, do the right thing.
All right, I want to remind each and one of you to make sure to continue your social distance. Wash those hands. If Dr. Maya 100 was here, she would tell you, don't forget to get all up in here. She's vacationing. Maya, we miss you and we love you. And we want to remind you to wear your face covering. As you can see, there were a number of us here, even in a large room, in a large space, but we made sure that we wore our face coverings and they went over our nose and our mouth. And just so you know, before you ask, there's an N95 inside of my beautiful mask cover. Mike always gets on me about wearing N95. So there's one inside of my beautiful mask cover. Don't be mad. It's here. And of course, as always, we have our closing remarks by our very own Congressman of the Illinois 7th Congressional District. The one who
as we get up to Christmas, I was just sitting here thinking how great it would be if high school students and college students, especially African American ones, who were trying to determine what they wanted their careers to become, that they could have been listening as we've had these discussions with Dr. Miller, Dr. Pete, Dr. Graham, Dr. McGee, Dr. Terry Mason, Dr. Maya, and others, that if Black students knew that the practice of medicine could be what it has been for these ladies and gentlemen. I know that Doug Graham is finishing up a fellowship, and I want to say to Dr. Graham, Doug, it's been wonderful having you with us for all of this time. Your dedication and commitment has been inspirational. You've been a real addition to the work that we've been able to do in terms of health policy and health practice. And so I just want to wish for you and your family a wonderful holiday and to thank you for the service that you have given as a member of our staff. I think I may have been the only member of Congress that actually has had a practicing physician on my staff as a freebie for a couple of years. I don't know any other member of Congress who can lay claim to that. There might be some, but it's been a real pleasure for us, and we've certainly enjoyed. But, you know, there's a tremendous need for more medical practitioners. And fortunately, and we've got some stuff in the Build Back Better for another 1,000 slots. But, you know, the man say he may not go for that. But, you know, if young people have heard and could see what the practice of medicine could be and bring, I'm sure that more of them would decide that it's worth the effort to go through whatever it is that you have to go through in order to get to that point. So I just thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being the inspiration as well as the conveyance of knowledge and information that you've done for us the whole year. And I don't think we could have a better hour spent than the hours that we have spent on Monday evenings. So I simply thank you all, wish for you and your families a happy, peaceful holiday period, and we look forward to seeing you next year. Nicole, let me thank you for the shepherding of this process that you have done. We have had outstanding stuff. Any way you cut it. If I was giving out awards, I'd say we ought to get the Oscar. But that's not, just don't eat any of that stuff that Dr. Mason wouldn't recommend for the holidays. Have a good week. And thank you all. It's been great, and thank you so much.
Happy holidays.
Good night.
All
Happy
right.
holidays. Happy holiday.
All right. Yeah, just go right ahead.